Welcome back, race fans. As we mentioned before the break, the chase for the Sprint Cup just got interesting again. The points leader, Jimmie Johnson's giant lead has been virtually cut in half, with 2 races remaining. With Mark the Kid Martin now within 73 points of Johnson, it looks like this chase is far from over. So, does Mark Martin, or anyone else for that matter, have enough time to catch Jimmie Johnson and take the cup? Fleegatron, what do you think?
No. Plain and simple, no. No one's got enough time. We say it every year. Every guy in the chase, he's going to have one bad race. You can't have 10 perfect races. So far, Johnson, the first 7 races, he was perfect. He did everything right that you expected him to do. He did to get the points lead of 184 and pull away. This was his bad race. Luckily for him, he had his bad race while he already had a big gap. Now, Martin, with the wreck, he finishes 4th. He gets within 73 points. It gives hope. It gives us hope as analysts that the chase will be close again. But I can't pick against Jimmie Johnson. I can't pick against that guy. The guy is too dominant. He has one bad race. He'll use it as motivation. Will he drive more defensively? No. Will he drive less aggressively? No. Will he drive smarter? Yes, I think he will, now that he's got his one bad race behind him.
Well, there's really no doubt in my mind that Jimmie Johnson has been racing to protect the championship, this chase. He hasn't been racing to win it. He's been racing to keep from losing it. And in the last couple of races, that's really what he's been doing. Talladega, he laid in the back. Last week's a different story.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he's been keeping himself back in the field, trying to keep himself from slipping up. And I think that it's going to be no different coming next week. Now, Jimmie Johnson dodged a major bullet this week, and I know a lot of people are saying the wreck and losing 100 points definitely hurt him a lot. But I think that he dodged a bullet as well. The fact that he was able to get the car, the team was able to get the car back on the racetrack and finish the race, even though 125 points down, really kept that lead from just being 73 points, as opposed to being only 30 points, which it would have been if he did not come back on the racetrack.
Well, see, the thing is there, though, he had a 31-lap gap over 39th place finisher Carl Edwards. So even if he doesn't get the car back out there right away, he has 31 laps he could have fallen back on before he even loses his spot. So that was key as well. Getting him back out there quickly, yes, it did help. He was able to log laps and keep from falling further behind. But just in case something else had happened, he had a little bit of a gap to work with. I think he knew that. I think his team knew that. Now, does that mean they tried less hard, to get the car back out there and get it ready to go back out there? No, I don't think that means that at all. But I think they had it in the back of their mind that, okay, we have a little gap to work with just in case something goes wrong. And that's how Jimmie Johnson's team, that's how they always work.
Well, I think that Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon still do have a chance to win. I'm not going to come out and say that the chase is over anymore, because things like that can happen. Could it happen this week at Phoenix? It could.
If you don't, I will.
Well, luckily for NASCAR, it made it interesting again, and that's really what's important. Anyway, moving on. You may recall that last week we reported on how uneventful the race at Talladega was. Well, it turns out that NASCAR is not accepting the blame for this. In fact, they claim it was ABC and ESPN who is to blame for the snooze fest. Blegus, why do you think NASCAR wants to put the blame on the network and not themselves for this one?
Because they're trying to keep themselves from looking bad. Simply put, that's what it is. NASCAR has always had the reputation of, okay, we're the best, nobody's better than us, we don't do anything wrong. That's how they've always stood, whether it comes to safety, competitiveness, whatever you can throw out there. That's the way NASCAR's always been. This is no different. So a lot of people are giving NASCAR heat because they feel the race was boring, because of the no bump drafting in the turns rule was the thing that really set it off. Now, of course, they're going to come out here, they're going to try to put it on somebody else because they don't want the bad blame to come back on themselves for it. I don't think there's anything that was unexpected.
I pulled this directly off of NASCAR.com, and this is NASCAR's their official statement on the race from last week. It says here, NASCAR spokesman Ramsey Poston suggested that ESPN and ABC analysts, including Dale Jarrett, and I quote, certainly weren't happy with the race and felt compelled to remind viewers of that virtually every lap. And along the way, ABC missed a lot of great racing. Look, that to me is just an example of NASCAR passing the buck. Look, anyone and their mother could have watched that race last week and saw that it was boring and there was absolutely nothing you could do to make it unboring. I, as a fan, would be offended if Dale Jarrett, someone who's won at Talladega, got on there and tried to say, "Oh man, this race is great. This is some this is some woo dog,"
Yeah.
And if he did that, I'd be offended as a fan because we all know it was boring.
It was. You can't cover it up. You can't get around it. You can't hide it. The race was boring.
Absolutely.
That's all. The race was absolutely boring. And if you were tired, you were falling asleep. That's how boring the race was. It just wasn't exciting.
Well, NASCAR went on to say that they were not thrilled with ESPN and ABC airing footage in race radio of Tony Stewart saying that he was bored, or the jokes that Kevin Harvick were talking about, giving him an iPod like we talked about last week. Again, NASCAR, come on. You messed up. You made a mistake when you told them that they couldn't bump draft in the corners, and it just made the race boring. It's okay for you to make a mistake every once in a while, but don't sit there and blame the networks because, the networks had 4 hours to cover. If there's nothing going on, what are they going to do? Are they going to sing a song? They're going to do a dance? Come on.
Go get hot dogs to eat for lunch. I mean, there's nothing you can do at that point.
No, there really isn't. There really isn't. Anyway, moving on. Danica Patrick was our story last week about what was going on in the world of NASCAR. And Flegel, I think you have an update on that.
I do. Now, reports last week were that she was closing in on a deal with JR Motorsports, the company owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr., to be in the Nationwide Series next year on a limited 12 or 13 race schedule. Now, Jr. since then has come out and has stated publicly that she is a good fit for NASCAR, but not necessarily with his team, and that other teams were still in the mix for his services. However, two sources close to the situation are both saying that one source is saying that a deal is imminent, and the other source is saying that a deal will be completed within the next week to 10 days, but will not be formally announced until the offseason. Basically because they don't want any distractions between now and the end of the year. Not that Junior doesn't have enough distractions already. He's still going to field questions about this, obviously. What do you make of all this, Mark? Really? He comes out and he says publicly that they're not closing on a deal when everybody thinks that they have one.
I agree with you. I really think that it's pretty much a done deal. Is it going to be good for NASCAR, like Dale Jr. says? Yeah, I think it's going to be good for the fan standing point for a little while. But again, the racing, like we talked about last week, Tony Stewart is probably the only IndyCar driver that I can think of that came in and has really, really had a great career in NASCAR. Drivers like Sam Hornish Jr. are still trying to find that win. Do I think it's a done deal? Yeah, I think they're going to wait, obviously, like you just said, to wait until the offseason to make that announcement. Anyway, folks, don't go away. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about engine issues and go over some viewer mail. Don't go away. We'll be right back.